Hello everyone, my name is Derek and welcome to the Netflix Knowhow, the review show here to help you stop browsing and start watching. Today we have the Cloverfield Paradox, a Netflix original sci-fi film and the newest chapter in the ever-expanding Cloverfield universe. The Cloverfield Paradox follows a group of scientists, led by David Oyelowo, who are up in a space station trying to get the world's largest particle collider to work in order to solve an energy crisis down on Earth. Of course, when they do finally get the thing to work, it sends them flying across time and space to a parallel dimension where things start to get a little weird. So before I get into my thoughts on the film, I just want to give you a bit of history and a little bit of backstory on how this film came to be in the first place. The film started back in 2012 as an original sci-fi movie unaffiliated with the Cloverfield named, and it was called The God Particle. The film was going to be produced by Paramount Studios and J.J. Abrams' production studio Bad Robot. During production of the film, however, apparently J.J. Abrams saw something special about the script and he decided to make a few alterations to it so that he could narratively fit it into the Cloverfield universe alongside the original Cloverfield film and 10 Cloverfield Lane. Side note, this is actually a very similar situation to what happened with 10 Cloverfield Lane, as it was originally written as an original script called The Cellar and not at all attached to the Cloverfield universe, but then J.J. Abrams stepped in and he saw some potential to connect it to the Cloverfield film, and that's how we got this whole universe started. Anyway, the Cloverfield Paradox, as it was now called, was set to be released theatrically in 2016, but the release date kept getting pushed back, and for those of you who are not really super in tune with industry trends, a movie continually getting pushed back is not generally a good sign. With the fate of the movie stuck in limbo, eventually Netflix decided to step in and buy up the distribution rights for the film. A surprise teaser trailer was released during Super Bowl 52 earlier this year, and immediately following the game, the film was quickly released to the streaming platform. And now here we are, a few months later, and I'm finally getting around to reviewing this movie. What took me so long, you ask? It's not good. Now, the reason I gave you that whole backstory about the Cloverfield Paradox is because the whole story just reeks that this thing was a clunker from the very get-go. The script was quickly altered to fit into a universe that it had absolutely no connection with beforehand, and while I will admit that this did end up working out for 10 Cloverfield Lane, it's not exactly a practice I would advocate for. The movie's theatrical release kept getting delayed, and while this isn't always the case, that is usually a sign that there is something very wrong with the movie, and the studio needs some more time to try and fix the thing before they actually release it to a wide audience. When Netflix finally swooped in to purchase the distribution rights for the film, it seems to me that Paramount probably knew that they had a dud on their hands, and they were just so thankful to get rid of this thing that they just shoveled it off on Netflix the moment they had a chance to. And finally, the marketing. Prior to the Super Bowl, no one really knew this movie existed. The teaser trailer was a complete shock to everyone when it was released, and the fact that it had a big name franchise attached to it only piqued our curiosities even more. The immediate streaming release following the debut of this teaser trailer allowed the movie to capitalize on that curiosity, and the rest is history. Now here's what I think happened. I think that Netflix bought the rights for the movie and then they realized what utter crap the movie actually was, so they had to sort of come up with this really gimmicky marketing and release strategy to drum up as much excitement as possible for the film. Basically, I think that they marketed and released the movie this way so that they could get as many people as possible to watch the film before word of mouth spread about how bad it actually is. And it's really, really bad. Now I know I've just spent who knows how many minutes talking about the production history of this film and speculating on what went on behind the scenes, but to be fair, that whole story is so much more interesting than the actual movie itself. So, as I was saying, you got these scientists up inside of a spaceship and they're trying to slam particles together, and then something goes wrong and bam, they're in another dimension. Okay, so it's like the premise for Lost in Space. And then one of the astronauts has these like things suddenly infest his body and they end up killing him from the inside out. Okay, so it's like the chest bursters from Alien. And then they find a mysterious woman stuck inside one of the wall panels for the ship, and she has all these like wires and cables and metal running through her body, and she's screaming bloody murder the whole time. Okay, so it's like the cosmic horror of Event Horizon. And then they have to dig through someone's insides to find a piece of the ship that mysteriously went missing when they jumped dimensions. Okay, so it's like the opera singer from The Fifth Element. Do you see the problem here? The Cloverfield paradox isn't so much an original sci-fi movie as it is more like an inferior mashup of every other sci-fi horror thing ever created before it. I mean seriously, at almost every single scene in this movie, I caught myself saying things like, oh hey, that looks like this movie, or oh hey, they did that in that movie. Every single scene. Well, I guess there is a part where Chris O'Dowd has his arm fall off, and that was kind of neat and creepy, but other than that, I couldn't tell you who any of the characters are. I mean, the movie's got great actors like David Oyelowo, Daniel Bruhl, Chris O'Dowd, all of whom I love to pieces. And they don't have anything to do here. There's also a female scientist played by Gugu Mbatha-Raw. I'm probably saying that wrong, and if I am, I sincerely apologize. Anyway, she has this subplot about how her children were killed in some kind of accident or something, and it's supposed to make her character like really sad and add some kind of depth, but all she ends up doing is whining and moaning and crying and complaining about every little thing, and she's just so useless and annoying. There's a part toward the end where she essentially volunteers to sacrifice herself in order to save everyone else, and I'm sitting over here thinking, yes, please do it, nobody likes you. Does that make me an awful person? Meh. The whole thing is really predictable too, which is really not a good thing if you're trying to create a sense of mystery and suspense. It took me about 10 seconds to figure out what was going on with them, what was going to happen to them, who the bad guy was going to be, and what order everyone was going to die in. Spoiler alert, boring. Even the connection to the Cloverfield universe is iffy at best. Whereas the story of 10 Cloverfield Lane was very much intertwined with this idea of an alien attack happening outside, the Cloverfield paradox is basically over here doing its own thing, and then suddenly it's like, oh hey, look, we brought a giant monster back with us, whoopsie. Bet you worked real hard on that one, Abrams. I'm sure you're real proud of that one. It's not a good movie. It tries to be a good movie by imitating about a bajillion other better sci-fi films and franchises, but it just ends up coming off as like a crappy celebrity impersonator wandering up and down the streets of Vegas like some kind of hobo. The real paradox here is trying to figure out how to salvage this franchise after getting hit with this particle of superheated garbage. Thumbs down. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you. If you've seen this movie, go ahead and leave your thoughts down below. I would love to hear what you guys thought on the movie. Also, I am planning a bit of a special thing next month, so be sure to keep your eyes peeled for that. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. Anyway, if you enjoyed this content, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below and share it with all your friends. I would really appreciate that. You can also head over to Twitter and over to Facebook and follow me on there. And as always, if you want to know your flicks, you know where to click. Happy hunting, guys. I'll see you next time.